Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Kashtira deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is still the best deck of the format. We did lose Kashtira Arise Heart, but I've already figured out a way around that to make this deck even better than it was before. So I'm really excited to show you guys this list, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name scratched in every single video, getting a signed card to the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Kashtira Unicorn. This is still the 1-card combo of the deck, and this card is amazing that if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, and once per turn, you can search any Kashtira spell you want from your deck to your hand. Usually you're grabbing your copy of Theosis still, and this card also has the ability when it declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can look at your opponent's extra deck and then banish a card from it face down. We then play 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. Fenrir is definitely a 3-up in the build. This card can special summon itself to your side of the field if you control no monsters. During your main phase, you can search any Kashtira monster you want from your deck to your hand, including another copy of Fenrir, which is crazy, and also it has the ability that when this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can actually target a face-up card your opponent controls and banish it face down. We then play 2 copies of Kashtira Rise Heart. This card is an awesome extender for the deck because this card has a really good ability that if you control a Kashtira monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extract for the rest of the turn except XZ monsters, which is not that big of a deal because that's pretty much all we're summoning anyways. This card also has the ability you can banish a Kashtira card from your deck, which is always going to be your copy of Big Bang, and then you have the ability to increase this card's level to 7 and banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck face down, which is a great ability to use with this card to get you an additional level 7 on the field. We then play a single copy of Scareclaw Kashtira. This card is an amazing extender that you can special summon from your hand to your side of the field, and then banish a Kashtira or a Scareclaw card from your hand or graveyard, which works really well with your copy of Theosis, so you can grab back one of your banished copies of your Kashtira cards back to your hand. This card is almost like a super heavy samurai card as well, because it can attack while it's in defense position, applying its defense points as if it were its attack points, which is really an amazing effect. We then play 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. This card is definitely a 3-up in the deck because we still don't care about the graveyard. This card is amazing this format, just being able to basically get rid of the entire graveyard as a mechanic, and it's just a really awesome card overall because it affects us like it helps us actually, which is why we play this card as a 3-up in the build. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's a definite 3-up in the build because this card basically just stops the opponent from searching the deck, and this card is amazing as a 3-up in the build. We're then playing 3 copies of Lava Golem. Lava Golem's a definite 3-up in this deck because it's actually a going second version of Kashtira, which I think is the best way to play this deck currently because there's so many board breakers that you can play in this particular build, and usually we just end with like Unicorn Fenrir and a really cool boss monster that we're playing in the extract. But this card is amazing in this particular build because it does burn the opponent for 1,000, so it can help you out in time, and it can also out big boards that your opponent might have to be able to just tribute over 2 of your opponent's monsters and give them Lava Golem to ensure that they're not going to have anything crazy on the field. Plus, it makes it easier for Fenrir to deal with this card opposed to cards that cannot be targeted. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with 3 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. This card is a definite 3-up in this build. This card makes it so we're basically playing 4 of all of our 1-up spells, and this card is absolutely insane in this build because it helps you get to all of your board breakers, it helps you get to all of your different plays in this deck, especially getting into cards like Terraforming, Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, Triple Tactics Talents. This card just gets you to anything that you need, even evenly matched this card can get you to, which is insane. And it also is really good if you do get pushed to go first, even though the majority of the time with this deck you're going to go second, because if you win the die roll, you just say, hey, I want to go second. And if you lose the die roll, your opponent's probably going to make you go second anyways. So we're prepared for either way, which is amazing because we want to go second with this deck and basically get the extra card in our hand, especially with cards like Triple Tactics Thrust, being able to just put anything that we need on our side of the field or add it to our hand so that we can board break the opponent. This card is really, really good. But as we go through the profile, if you guys can't get your hands on Triple Tactics Thrust, I'll give you guys some budget options for this card. We then play a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is amazing because it gets us to our 1-card combo, the field spell Pressured Planet, so we can search out Unicorn, our real 1-card combo, so we can special summon it to our side of the field and then basically get to our copy of our Theosis and then go in from there. We then play a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Harpy's Feather Duster is amazing in this deck as a 1-of, and pretty much as a 4-of because we have the copies of Triple Tactics Thrust, which is really good to be able to play in this deck as a 1-of, especially since it's one of the most powerful board breakers against back row decks. Speaking of one of the most powerful board breakers against back row decks, we play a single copy of Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm is also really good in this deck as a 1-of because you can search it out with your copy of Triple Tactics Thrust. It's not that great against the Unchained matchup, but it's good against so many other decks that it's fine as a 1-of. We then play a single copy of Triple Tactics Talents. Tactics Talents is really good because you can either look at your opponent's hand, draw 2 cards, or take control of an opponent's monster with this card, which is really good to be able to do in this deck, especially when you're going second and you know your opponent's going to have something. This card is really good in this particular build as a 1-of. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is definitely a 3-of because it helps us dig into the deck to be able to get to the exact cards that we need, like our copy of Pressured Planet, Unicorn, any of those other 1-card combos that we have in the build. If you already have Theosis in the hand, you can grab something like a Fenrir or vice versa. This card is just really good in the build just to help us dig into the deck. We then play 3 copies of Kashtira Theosis. Kashtira Theosis is definitely a 3-of because with Fenrir, this card gets you an insane board because it lets you target a Kashtira monster that you control and then special summon a Kashtira monster with a different attribute from your deck in a position, and it locks you into Xyz for the rest of the turn, which is again not that big of a deal because basically what you're going to do is special summon out your copy of Unicorn, use this card to be able to search out, or use Unicorn to search out this card, activate it, summon out Fenrir. Fenrir searches Rise Heart, or just regular Rise Heart because we don't have a Rise Heart anymore, but you search out your regular copy of Rise Heart and basically just extend your plays, and it's amazing as one of your combo pieces. Plus, it has the ability, if this card is banished, you can actually target one of your banished Kashtira cards, accept a copy of Theosis, and add it to your hand, which is amazing to recover cards like Big Bang or some of your other Kashtira cards. We then play 3 copies of Pressured Planet. Pressured Planet is definitely a 3-of in the build because we basically play like a bunch of copies of Unicorn in this deck because we have the 3 copies of Pressured Planet, the 1 copy of Terraforming, then your copy of Triple Tactics Thrust can get to Terraforming, so you have additional copies of Terraforming to be able to get to your copy of Pressured Planet. You have Unicorn at 2 in this deck. You just have so many 1-card combos in this deck. It's insane still. But this card has the ability to, when this card is activated, you add a Kashtira monster from your deck to your hand. It's basically the Rhoda for the deck, and it also has the ability that it lets all the monsters that you control gain 100 attack and defense points for each different attribute on the field, which can be quite a lot in this deck because a lot of our monsters have different attributes. It also has the ability of Shangri-Ira activates its effect successfully, then you can actually target 1 card on the field and destroy it, which is a great ability to be able to pop cards on the field, especially since Shangri-Ira is going to go off every standby phase. So this card is going to let you pop cards on the field every standby phase. We then play 3 copies of Kashtira Birth. Kashtira Birth is crazy powerful in this deck as a 3-of because it actually lets you normal summon a level 7 monster without tributing once per turn, which is a great ability. And during your main phase, you can actually special summon 1 non-Xyz Kashtira monster that is banished or in your graveyard, which is a great ability to bring back cards like Fenrir, Unicorn, any of those cards that you want back to your side of the field. This card is basically a once per turn monster reborn, which is insane. It also can banish cards from your opponent's graveyard if you control a Kashtira card and a spell card is activated by your opponent. You can actually banish up to 3 cards. You can banish exactly 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard, which is a really good effect, especially if your opponent is a graveyard reliant deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Some budget options for Triple Tactics Thrust for you guys is another copy of Lightning Storm. 2 copies of Talents if you want to play Talents in this deck, or you can even play 3 copies of Evenly Matched. I'm playing 1 in the build, but you can bump it up to 3 by cutting 2 of these, and then play another copy of Lightning Storm if you want to. But my best recommendation is to play the copies of Thrust. But if you don't have Thrust, either 2 more copies of Talents, 1 more copy of Lightning Storm, or 2 copies of Evenly Matched. Any of those numbers work for you guys to be able to increase, to be able to have more budget options than this, because I know this card is crazy expensive. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Evenly Matched. And this looks really wild, but you only need 1 because you're basically playing this card as a 4 of with your copies of Thrust. You can play this card as a 3 of. Again, like I said before, if you want to cut Thrust out of the deck, you can play this card as a 3 of by increasing this card by 2. Then you're down to 1 copy of Thrust, and you can play another copy of Talents if you want to be able to make the deck a perfect number, to be able to basically have the cards that you need. This card is really good because it's a board wipe right now, and it helps you out a lot of rogue decks. It deals with back row, which is really nice. And this card overall is a fantastic board breaker this format. We then play a single copy of Kashtira Big Bang. Big Bang is really good as a 1 of, because this is the card you're going to use with your copy of Rise Heart, because it has a really good ability. If this card is banished, you target a Kashtira XZ monster you control, add to your hand one of the materials that's attached to it, and then you can special summon that monster to your side of the field. So for example, if you have your copy of Shangri-La on your side of the field, it has Fenrir Unicorn attached to it, you summon out Rise Heart banishes this from the deck, then your copy of Big Bang will go off to be able to detach one of the materials off of Shangri-La, like for example a copy of Fenrir, grab the Fenrir off the bottom of it, and then add it to hand and special summon it to your side of the field, which gets you an additional monster on your side of the field, which is crazy. Essentially, kinda sorta making your copy of Shangri-La for 1 material, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is really good as a 3 of hand trap right now, just to stop your opponent's monster effects, and also set this card to your side of the field to lock down entire columns of spells and traps. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Shangri-La. I know that looks like a lot, but there's a reason for 3 copies in this build. This card is really good because it has the ability, during each standby phase, yours and your opponent's, you can special summon 1 Kashtira monster from your deck. Every single standby phase, you get a Kashtira monster. This card is basically like a free Fenrir E-Telly to your side of the field that doesn't destroy itself. It just stays on the field, which is really, really good. Also has the ability that if a card that is owned by your opponent is banished face down, you can pick an unused zone on your opponent's side of the field and lock it down so they cannot use it as long as that copy of Shangri-La is on your side of the field, and it stacks depending on how many you have on the field. If you have 3 on the field, you lock down 3 zones for every card that gets banished, which is insane. This card is definitely a 3 of now in this build, now that we don't have a Rise Heart, because there's a really cool boss monster that you can actually summon out with these cards. But this card also has the ability it can protect itself, because if it would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you just detach a material from this card instead, which is fine, because then we can use Birth to bring back whatever we detach back to our side of the field. Sometimes I even use the field spell to attempt to pop this card so I can get its materials out from under it, so I can bring them back with Birth. We then play a single copy of Dark Armed, the Dragon of Annihilation, aka me as an XZ. This card is really good because it has the ability that you can pop 2 cards on the field and also banish cards from your graveyard, which is great. This card was basically built for this deck because it helps you banish cards like Big Bang and your Theosis from the graveyard, which is really good, while also dealing with like 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. This card says basically every time your opponent breathes, they're going to take 500 points of damage. I actually consider playing this card as a 2 of in the build, and you can fit 2 of it in the deck now that we don't have to play a bunch of unnecessary prosperity targets for a Rise Heart to eat off of the copy of prosperity. So we have a lot more room in the extra deck, and this is actually something I consider bumping in as a 2 of, so we can summon 2 of them and do 1,000 points of burn damage every time our opponent does something. So this was a really good option if you do want to play double Flare Metal, because it really makes your opponent think about it, because they're going to have 2 copies of Flare Metal on the field and then a copy of Unicorn and Fenrir on the field that they're going to have to play through. They ain't playing through that. We then play a single copy of Dracosac. Dracosac's really good at just popping cards off the field, especially like Floodgates. This card is really good at dealing with. We'll play a single copy of the Darkest Dragon Doom Rider. This is actually what I consider dropping for the second copy of Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, which you can, if you want to, drop this card for another copy of Flare Metal, because this card kind of sort of does what Draco Sack does, because it lets you once per turn detach 2 materials from this card, target 1 face-up card on the field, and destroy it. And if it's a monster that gets destroyed, you can make 1 face-up monster that you control gain attack equal destroyed monster's original level or rank times 300 until the end of the turn, but this card cannot attack the turn you activate this effect. And it's a quick effect if it has a dragon monster as a material, but it's not crazy, which is why I consider dropping it for another copy of Flare Metal, but I wanted to have it as an option. We then play 2 copies of Big Eyes. Speaking of options, this card is an option at taking your opponent's monsters, which is hilarious. This card is really good at just taking the opponent's monster, using it against them, and winning the game. This card is really, really good as a 2-of in the deck, and I highly recommend playing this card as a 2-of in this build. We then play a single copy of F-Zero. You guys know where we're going with this now. We then play a single copy of F-Zero Utopic Draco Future. This is actually the new boss monster we're playing instead of a Rise Heart, and I feel like this is the best way to do this. You can easily make with 1 unicorn your copy of Shangri-Ira. It's super easy to pull off in this deck now. You can make 2 copies of Shangri-Ira in a single turn, put them both together, make a copy of Utopic Future and then Draco Future, and it also gives you a negate, which we didn't get before. We didn't get a monster negate in this deck, which is one thing the deck really lacked, was a good monster negate, and this is what we have now for that monster negate. And I feel like this is the best way to do it, because you can basically just board break your opponent's field and then summon out 2 copies of Shangri-Ira, make this on your side of the field, and then follow it up with whatever else you have in your hand to win the game, which is amazing. And I feel like the Utopic Draco Future is a really good package to be able to play in this build. We then play 2 copies of AA Zeus. AA Zeus is just amazing in the deck. We do play 2 just in case the mirror match, but this card is really good just in case you need to board wipe the field. It's still an amazing card to be able to throw on your side of the field, especially with the amount of XZs we're playing in the deck, and I will always probably play 2 copies of Zeus in this deck. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur, because we can make it by normal summoning an Ash Blossom. I know, that's weird, but we can. We can normal summon Ash Blossom and go with one of our 7s into this card, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Donner. Donner's just amazing in this deck as a 1-of, because this card can pop cards on the field, which is why I like this card as a 1-of in the deck. Playing this card and Baron just help you out all sorts of different cards, and it's just really good in this particular build. Baron's amazing because it is a walking negate, and this card is what the deck needed. It needed a negate before, but now you have Draco Future and Baron that are negates, and they're pretty easy to summon. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. The really, really secret spice was the copy of Draco Future and all the board breakers. But keep in mind, as you're playing this build, it is a going second build. You want to go second with this deck and basically just establish an insane board to be able to make against your opponent, let them do whatever they want to do, and then board break them over and over again until you win the game. That's basically the way the deck plays. We're playing a bunch of Cyber Dragons in this build that's basically just going to special summon themselves to your side of the field and then win the game. So I think that's how we would need to play it. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below, because this deck is still the best deck of the format, I think. I think it's still absolutely crazy. You still have 3 Fenrir. You still have 2 Unicorn. You have triple Tactics Thrust that can get you to the field spell off of Terraforming. You have Terraforming. You have so many different plays with this build. And ultimately, Fenrir is still a card, which is insane. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.